Digimon Adventure 2020 has debuted in the Dragon Ball Super time slot on Fuji TV, and Episode 1, Tokyo Digital Crisis, has come out. Now, I am going to be watching this on Crunchyroll, and if you want to try Crunchyroll Premium out for free for 2 weeks, I have a link in the description for you to check that out, so you can watch Digimon and tons of other anime as well. But I want to do a quick little review on Digimon Adventure Episode 1. First, I want to talk about sort of my history with Digimon. So, because I haven't talked about it a lot on this channel whatsoever, actually. Digimon, I watched it when I was very, very young, when it was on television dubbed. I never saw the Japanese version with the exception of, I remember a long time ago, I got my hands on the Japanese versions of the movies. I think the first 3 movies, I think it was, if I remember correctly. It may have been OVAs. It was a long time ago. And to be honest with you, I did like Digimon. There were some things I did not like about it, but it was a fun show to watch. But I never saw it in Japanese, so I'm not familiar with the voices or with the music that much. And I haven't seen it since I was a kid. I mean, I think the last time I actually watched Digimon, I may have been like 15, 16 years old. I mean, I was very, very young. Very vague memories of it. And I only saw Season 1 and the first few episodes of Season 2, which I think was the Armor Digivolve was Season 2. But I'm mostly familiar with Season 1. So with this new show, Digimon Adventure 2020, essentially what it is from my understanding is it's the old characters from Season 1, but a brand new story. So it's not like a reboot, even though apparently some things are going to be the same. The story goes in a different direction. But for somebody like me, I don't even remember too much about the original show. Like, I remember some things, but very, very vaguely. So this will all be new to me. So if there's nostalgic references and things like that in this show, I'm not going to pick them up as much as somebody who's seen the show, you know, recently, or somebody who's a Digimon expert. You know, just keeping it real. This is not my expertise. As you know, Dragon Ball is my expertise. I can tell you everything about that series backwards and forwards. So that's kind of what my number one anime is as far as my knowledge of it and, you know, the history and whatnot. With Digimon, I respect it, but I really don't know much about it when it comes to more than just surface level stuff and stuff that I vaguely remember. It's been so many years. I don't even know if there was censorship, even though I did hear from somebody there was between the dub and the sub. But here I'm watching it subbed on Crunchyroll. And again, the link is in the description if you want to watch it for free on premium for 2 weeks. No ads, and you get access to episodes right when they air, right after they air. You don't have to wait a week to see them. So, for some anime. So that's very useful. Now, with Digimon, production-wise, I think Anime AJ will be making a video about this with more details, but a lot of the Dragon Ball Super animators that worked on Super, the Toei staffers, they also work on One Piece and a lot of the Toei properties. Not just, I name One Piece, it's one of the biggest ones, or maybe the biggest one right now. Pretty Cure, you know, all that stuff. And a lot of them are going to be on this show. We've seen a lot of them already appear in Episode 1, and more are coming in the future episodes to animate Digimon. With this episode, though, it was a reboot. We were introduced to our characters, our main character, Taichi, and his band, or his group, that are going to end up being, you know, the players of Digimon Adventure 2020. Now, unlike Dragon Ball Super, which was plagued with production problems from the beginning. I mean, it wasn't until Tournament of Power that they were able to actually get their stuff together. That's why it looks so much better than the rest of the series. With Digimon Adventure 2020, there was a lot of pre-planning going on. I had heard about this series back in October. I did not break the story because I'm not a Digimon channel, but I did discuss knowing about it before it was announced in my Dragon Ball Super update video that I put out a couple of months ago, because I knew this show was taking over the time slot. Even though I was not sure of it, I was told. I did not get to double source that. But it is in the same time slot as Dragon Ball Super. Presumably it'll be on for probably a year, possibly less than that. If people are wondering about Super coming back in its time slot, it may or may not happen. I've already talked about that in detail, and go check out my video on Super's future that I did a couple of months ago if you want the full rundown on that. Because we'll see. I mean, it's very hard, especially with coronavirus now. It's very, very hard to say what's going to happen with that. But in the meantime, we do have Digimon here to kind of take its place. And like I said, the point I was trying to get to is that it looks really, really good. This first episode has super clean animation. Everything's nice and crisp and very beautiful. I really enjoyed the visual aesthetic of watching Digimon Adventure 2020. One of the things that tripped me out about this is they have a scene early in the episode where the train is like out of control, so they're running to get to the train station. And being in Japan, now that I went to Japan earlier this year at the beginning of the year, now it all like it makes sense to me now, right? Like I see them running through the subway, the Shibuya line, like, you know, the different train lines. They're not obviously identical as they are in real life, but it really looks like how they do in real life or close to it. And it brought a smile to my face because now that I've been to Japan, I can actually see, I have a better frame of reference for the stuff they're showing. You know, so I wonder if I go back to old anime and watch it now that I've been in Japan, I wonder if it's going to change my perspective on certain things in Japan and the ones that are set in Japan, you know, if that makes sense. And so what they do in this episode is sort of like the first half of it involves these like digital anomalies going on in the world, strange things going on. And it turns out that this is obviously having to do with the Digimon, and we have Agumon actually introduced right halfway through the episode. So we're already seeing familiar characters from the original series already. Like again, it's the old characters in a new story, and I'm very curious to see how much they're going to diverge from the original. However, it seems like it's going to be a lot because the pacing of this episode itself seemed a lot faster than the old series, and the old series was pretty fast paced, I would say, at some moments. There's an action sequence here with Agumon, you know, that has such incredible freaking music. Like, it felt good, it looked good. You know, so far I'm very impressed. The colors are very vibrant. Like, it's a very easy show to watch, very pleasing to the eyes. And the action so far looks pretty damn good, even though it's just the first episode. And we soon find out that Taichi ends up inside the network, which I think was called the Digital World in the original dub. I'm not sure about Japanese. Like I said, I haven't seen it in Japanese. But Taichi gets stuck in the digital world, in the network. And that's where he meets Agumon, by the way. And so we have like this, you know, the whole thing like even starts out the episode talking about how the internet's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And what blows my mind is that, you know, this is in 2020, yo. The original Digimon series, the internet was just kind of developing during that time. It definitely was not what it is now. And now the grand growth of the internet, of what we call the internet, is much larger than what it was back then. And I feel like it's a better representation of the digital world because there's so many hard drives out there now. There's so much data on the web compared to, you know, the 90s, that it's just, it's going to be bigger without question. And it makes more sense. Digimon makes more sense now. And in some ways, the original series was ahead of its time. And even though, yes, it was 99, you know, 2000, it wasn't like the early 90s. Still, even in 2000, it's not what it is now, obviously. I mean, it was a different world back then. And so in the episode, you know, Koshiro kind of becomes the exposition character, because he's kind of telling, you know, Taichi what's going on. Like, hey, you're in the digital world, the network, the digivices, you know, kind of explaining what's going on. Because when he goes into the digital world, his tablet becomes awesome, as he says, and everything's all like cool and, you know, different, and it changes things, you know, and the reality changes here. They had this cool sequence where Agumon's just kicking ass, and like you see on the laptop, like what looks to be like Digimon versions of Space Invaders, and they're all disappearing and whatnot. I thought that was kind of a cool touch right there. I enjoyed that. And so the Digimon that they're facing, that they're going against in the Digi world, is sort of like a computer virus where it's evolving, and as it evolves, the uncontrollable train that's in the Tokyo Loop is getting faster and faster, risking the lives of those aboard. Because if it gets derailed, everybody's going to die. You know, and it's interesting how they kind of act like computer viruses here, you know. Which kind of reminds me of the old series, too. I mean, I remember an aspect of that being in the old series. But again, it's been so long, dude. Like, literally, I never went back to watch it again. Not because I don't like it or anything like that. It's just, I never had time. It's just something I saw when I was a kid, you know. I was a teenager. So, Agumon evolves into Greymon. Now, again, I'm very surprised that in the first episode, we're already seeing several evolutions. But I do like Greymon's design. I always have. And I will tell you that this transformation sequence is freaky, yo. Like, it's all mutated out with all these colors. Like, it's very, very interesting looking. And I want to say this. I'm not an expert on this, but I feel like this show has the same sort of picture filter that Dragon Ball Super had during the Tournament of Power. I could be wrong on that, but it seems like that could be the case. Because it looks like that. It reminds me of that, you know, especially with that scene. So Greymon uses the Mega Flame, and the Argomon are history. And finally, the crash, the train crash, had been avoided. So the episode essentially wraps up with that sort of plot thread. You know, they did a pretty good job in introducing the characters. Not all of them, because there's going to be a lot more characters to come. You know, if you saw Digimon, the old series, you know there's a ton of characters in this freaking show. Tons. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's a good intro, even if you've never seen the original Digimon show. Because like I said, for me, I have vague memories. It's a good way to sort of introduce us to the world. But, again, things are a bit different this time. But the virus continues, because now the cliffhanger of the episode is that the U.S. military, the American military's tactical data network, has been targeted. And that puts the entire world at risk, because that's a lot of power that could end up being corrupted here. And like I said, this episode takes place in Japan, so it's not in the U.S., but with the power of the internet, we can get there pretty quickly, I presume. And that's where the story will continue with episode 2. So I did like episode 1 of Digimon. I know that there's some big animators like Shida coming up in the future, and I enjoyed it, and I might keep watching it. Let me know if you want me to keep reviewing it. If not, that's cool. But I'm not an expert on Digimon. Don't expect me to give you like Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball Z level analysis on those videos, because I don't know much about it. I would have to go back and watch it over again. But so far, so good, and I'm enjoying it. Overall, I'm enjoying this, yo. And I had a good time watching it. Really, it flew by. It flew by. Let me know what you think, and we'll talk soon.